Side of 3 p.m. It hasn't even happened yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's this bizarre split reality because your legs are moving, but mentally you are just miles away,
Yeah.
usually rushing toward whatever's next on the schedule.
Right. I mean, it's the default state for.
It's a really strange phenomenon of modern life
Mm-hmm.
that your body can just be physically walking down a sidewalk, right?
Mm.
But your brain is like currently living inside a 3 p.m. budget meeting that hasn't even happened yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's this bizarre split reality because your legs are moving, but mentally you are just miles away,
Yeah.
usually rushing toward whatever's next on the schedule.
Right. I mean, it's the default state for most of us, really. We kind of treat walking as nothing more than a mechanical transportation method.
Yeah,
It's just the physical chore of getting our meat suits to the place our minds have already sprinted ahead to. We are entirely disconnected from the physical act of moving.
completely. And that split reality is exactly what we're unpacking today for you. We're doing a deep dive into a set of excerpts from a really compelling text. It's called The Rhythm of Arrival, Mindful Walking and Breath Regulation.
Mm-hmm.
And it is essentially a manual for using your physical stride to kind of hijack your nervous system, to pull yourself out of that mechanical, zombie-like walking.
Yeah, because this text makes it very clear right out of the gate. This is not about exercise.
Right, right.
We aren't looking at the cardiovascular benefits of a brisk walk, and we certainly aren't trying to help you hit a daily step count.
Which is a relief, honestly. You can leave the smartwatches at home for this one.
Exactly.
This is about shifting your body from a state of constant low-grade urgency to a state of actual presence. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right.
Because before the text even gets into the physical mechanics of how to breathe, it sets up who this practice is specifically designed for. And I got to say, reading it, I felt completely called out.
I think it calls a lot of us out, honestly. The text specifically targets people who overthink, who feel mentally overloaded, who are constantly rushing, or who just generally struggle to feel present.
Yeah.
It is explicitly a tool for the overloaded mind.
Yeah, the list of symptoms hit a little too close to home. Like when I read the phrase internal rushing, the analogy that immediately came to my mind was having 50 browser tabs open in your brain all at once.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. And like music is playing from one of them, but you don't know which one. And you're just frantically trying to click through to find it. That internal franticness is exactly what they're targeting here.
Yes.
So to combat that, the text lays out some very specific ground rules for preparation before you even take your first mindful step.
Right. It dictates the environment to set you up for success because you can't just do this anywhere. You need to choose a quiet road, a garden, a terrace, a hallway, or a natural path.
So no busy city intersections.
Definitely not. And you have to walk slowly, keep your shoulders relaxed, let your arms move naturally, and crucially, no phone.
Well, the phone ban is obvious, but I do have to push back on another rule in this preparation phase because the source insists on absolutely no music initially. And I have to be honest, my immediate reaction was, are you kidding me? Wouldn't a calming ambient playlist like, I don't know, a lo-fi beats track or some gentle acoustic guitar,
Mhm.
wouldn't that actually help calm the nervous system down?
Yeah.
Like, why ban the one thing that usually helps us relax when we're stressed?
It's a really valid question, and it's counterintuitive because we do use music as an emotional regulator all the time. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of what the text is trying to achieve, removing the music makes perfect sense.
Okay, how so?
The overarching purpose here is to increase pure, unfiltered body awareness.
So you're saying, like, if I have a lo-fi track playing at 60 beats per minute, my heart rate might slow down to match it, but my body hasn't actually learned how to calm itself.
Precisely. If you are listening to a calming playlist, your nervous system synchronizes with the external beat of the music.
Oh, wow.
Right. You are outsourcing your regulation to an external source. The goal of the rhythm of arrival is to reduce those external inputs entirely so that you can feel your nervous system regulating through your own internal rhythm.
Okay.
You need to prove to your body that it can generate its own steadiness from within without needing a curated soundtrack to do it.
Wow. Okay, so we are really stripping away all the crutches here. No podcasts, no music, no distractions. Just you, a quiet path, and your own physical machinery. So, if we are out on this path alone with our own noise, how does the text suggest we actually begin dealing with it? Because, I mean, my instinct would be to immediately start doing deep, intense breathing exercises to just force myself to calm down.
And that is exactly what the text tells you not to do.
Really?
Yeah. The first phase is purely observational. It's about finding your baseline. So before you try to control anything at all, you just walk normally for 1 minute.
Just 1 minute of normal walking.
Just 1 minute. And during that time, you observe three things: your breathing speed, your walking pace, and your internal restlessness. It asks you to pose one core question to yourself. Am I walking from presence or pressure?
Presence or pressure? It kind of reminds me of getting into your car and just checking the dashboard before you merge onto a busy highway.
Yeah.
You aren't trying to fix the engine right then and there, you know?
Yeah.
You just need to know if the check engine light is on.
That's a perfect analogy.
But how exactly do we measure pressure versus presence in our own bodies? Because we are so incredibly used to living on autopilot, I feel like my pressure gauge is just broken because it's always pegged to the red. How do I even recognize it if it's all I know?
Well, that is exactly why this 1 minute observation period is so critical. It is an exercise in radical self-honesty.
Okay.
When you live on autopilot, chronic tension just feels like your normal baseline. You don't even realize you're clenching your jaw or holding your breath. But if you actually stop and observe without the distractions we just talked about, pressure becomes very tangible.
So what does it physically feel like, according to the source? Like, what are we looking for?
The text highlights this emotional and physical tightness. So pressure manifests as shallow, rapid breathing right in the top of your chest, almost like you're panting slightly.
Oh, yeah.
It also manifests as an unnecessarily fast walking pace. Like,
Yeah.
have you ever caught yourself speed walking to your kitchen to get a glass of water as if you're late for an appointment? Oh, all the time. Yes. It's that leaning forward posture, like your head is trying to get to the destination before your feet.
Yeah.
And having your shoulders just clenched up around your ears.
Yes, exactly. That leaning forward is the physical manifestation of internal rushing. Your body is quite literally trying to catch up to a mind that is already in the future.
Wow.
Presence, on the other hand, is the absence of that tightness. Your center of gravity shifts back. But the key here is that the text explicitly tells you just to walk normally for that first minute. You are merely observing the pressure. You are not trying to fix it yet.
Gee, that feels incredibly counterintuitive to me. If I notice my shoulders are tight, my first instinct is to aggressively force them down. Why not fix it immediately?
Because the moment you judge yourself for being tense, you create more tension. You start fighting yourself. You think, why am I so tense? I need to relax right now. That is just adding another layer of pressure.
Right, you're stressing about being stressed. Exactly. By merely witnessing your own restlessness without fighting it, without trying to wrestle it into submission, you actually initiate the very first shift toward presence. You move from being the person who is rushing to being the observer who notices the rushing.
I love that shift in perspective. You just acknowledge the tension. Like, hello, tense shoulders. Hello, shallow breathing. So, okay, we've checked the dashboard. We know our baseline. How do we start physically bringing the breath and the body into harmony?
It begins with what the text calls the beginner rhythm. You inhale for 3 steps and you exhale for 3 steps. So it's step, step, step on the inhale and step, step, step on the exhale.
Okay.
And the text gives a very specific warning here. Do not force deep breathing. Allow it to become natural.
Which is important because, the instinct for a lot of people when they hear breathing exercise is to suddenly take these massive, aggressive gulps of air, like they are preparing to dive underwater or something.
Which is exactly the opposite of what we want. This is about gentle regulation, not hyperventilation. The harmony is more important than the volume of air.
Right. If 3 steps feel too long for your natural breath, you don't force it. The idea is to let the breath ride the rhythm of the walking.
Yeah.
And once you establish that baseline 3-step rhythm, you are supposed to slow the inner pace. So after a few minutes, you shift to a 4-step rhythm. Inhale for 4 steps, exhale for 4 steps. And this is where the text says you should start noticing the physiological changes, right? Like your heartbeat slowing, muscle relaxation, emotional shifts, and mental quietness. But I have to admit, as I was reading this, counting my steps while trying to manage my inhales and exhales, it sounds a bit like learning a new dance routine.
It can feel a little mechanical at first, certainly.
So my pushback here is this. Is there a risk that concentrating so hard on counting like 1, 2, 3, 4 inhale actually creates more mental noise? What if you trip over your own feet trying to overthink the rhythm? It feels like we are giving the brain a math problem when we are trying to get it to relax.
That is a very common hurdle when starting any somatic practice, actually. But what's fascinating here is how the text addresses that exact problem. It explicitly says that if thoughts appear, and they will, whether they are worries about your day or anxiety about getting the counting right, do not fight them.
Okay.
You don't get angry at your brain for thinking. You simply return to the mantra provided in the text, which is just breath step, breath step.
I mean, I see the logic of using a simple mantra, but let me push back a bit harder on this. Doesn't that risk turning a walk into a high-stakes chore? Like, now I have a job to do on this walk. I have to count, and if I lose count at step 3, I've failed the relaxation test. That sounds pretty stressful.
And if you approach it as a rigid test, it absolutely will be stressful.
Wow.
But the counting or the mantra isn't a tightrope you have to balance on. It serves a very specific psychological purpose.
Which is?
It is meant to occupy the active conscious mind just enough to keep it busy. Think of it like giving a toddler a simple puzzle to play with so the adults can have a serious conversation in the background.
Well, that's good.
By giving your anxious brain the simple, repetitive task of saying breath step, your nervous system can quietly take over the profound, calming regulation process.
So it's less about military precision and more about having a gentle anchor to return to.
Yes. You are deliberately occupying the thinking mind with a low-stakes task so the feeling body can do its work without interference. You aren't managing the relaxation, You're getting out of its way.
Okay, framing it as occupying the toddler makes a lot of sense. You're just giving the monkey mind a banana so it stops swinging from the chandeliers.
Exactly.
And once that rhythm clicks in, once you aren't fighting the counting and the nervous system starts to settle, the text offers ways to deepen the practice. Because once the mental noise slows down, your sensory perception actually expands.
It really does. When you aren't entirely absorbed in your own internal monologue, you suddenly have the bandwidth to notice the external world.
Yeah, the text suggests that while you are in this rhythm, you can silently start noticing external and physical details, like the feeling of your feet actually touching the ground, the temperature of the air on your skin, the specific sounds around you, the movement of light, or just the continuous rhythm of your own body.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who get really comfortable with this, there's an advanced variation introduced, the 4-2-4 rhythm.
Yes. You inhale for 4 steps, you hold that breath for 2 steps, and then you exhale for 4 steps.
But the text is adamant you do this only if it feels comfortable and natural, never strained. But why does that 2-step hold matter so much? Like, what's the actual mechanism there that deepens the regulation?
That brief physical suspension of breath forces a momentary pause in the internal mental monologue. When the physical body is completely still and holding a breath, even for just 2 steps, it demands the brain's attention.
Wow.
The body's stillness commands focus, pulling you even deeper into the present moment. But again, if you strain, it triggers a panic response. Safety in the body is always the priority.
That phrase, safety in the body, it leads perfectly into the reflection phase of this text. After you finish this walk, the source asks you to journal briefly, and the prompts really force you to unpack what just happened.
They do.
It asks, what changed inside me? Did I feel grounded, restless, peaceful, or emotional? What pace does my body naturally want?
Those are big questions to confront.
They are.
Yeah.
And let's talk about what those states actually look like, because restless in this context isn't just tapping your foot.
No. A restless body pace after trying to slow down usually means your nervous system is still vibrating with residual adrenaline. Your body naturally wants to bolt.
Yeah.
Peaceful, conversely, is a physical heaviness. It's when your natural walking pace drops significantly and you find yourself lingering. You aren't in a rush to finish the walk.
There's one specific reflection question, though, that I want to zoom in on, because I think it unlocks the hardest part of this whole practice. The text asks, did my mind resist slowing down? Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because you would think the mind would be grateful for the break. You're finally giving it a rest, but it usually fights back. I compare this resistance to stepping off a treadmill after running at a high speed for like 30 minutes. You step off, you're standing completely still on the floor, but your brain and your body feel like they're pitching forward. You have this dizzying phantom momentum. Why does the mind throw a tantrum when we finally give it the peace it supposedly wants?
It's a brilliant analogy, the treadmill effect. And the text touches on something deeply profound regarding this resistance. When we are constantly rushing, when we are maintaining that high-speed mental treadmill, we are often outrunning our own internal state.
Oh, wow.
We are using the pressure and the urgency as a shield. When you finally synchronize your breath and your steps and that mental noise actually slows down, the shield drops.
And you're left alone with whatever's underneath.
Exactly that. The text asks, what emotions surfaced when I became quiet? Because suppressed emotional pressure, whether that's anxiety, grief, frustration, or even just pure exhaustion, often surfaces the moment the cognitive distraction stops.
Right.
The resistance, the mind throwing a tantrum, is essentially the mind's fear of confronting those quiet emotions. It's the mind saying, no, no, let's go back to worrying about the budget meeting. It's safer than feeling this underlying sadness.
Wow. So the rushing is actually a coping mechanism. We're using our own busy schedules to avoid sitting in the quiet with ourselves.
For many people, yes, it's a very effective way to numb out. If you are always 10 minutes late in your mind, you never have to feel the exhaustion or the anxiety that is sitting right there in your present body.
Which makes this practice kind of intimidating, honestly. If you slow down, you have to feel it all.
And this is exactly why those optional awareness additions we discussed, focusing on the feeling of your feet, the air temperature, the light, are so vital.
It'll keep you grounded.
Right. They act as physical anchors. When the quietness brings up vulnerable emotions, focusing on the physical reality of the present moment safely anchors the walker. It proves to the nervous system, you are here, you are safe, the ground is solid beneath you. You don't have to get swept away by the emotion, you can just feel your feet on the pavement.
So what does this all mean? If we step back and look at this entire manual, from the preparation to the breathing mechanics to the emotional resistance, what is the ultimate takeaway?
The text summarizes its own lessons beautifully. It says this practice teaches presence over pressure, rhythm over urgency, and awareness over autopilot. It is fundamentally about unlearning the habit of existing purely in the future tense.
And there was this one quote at the very end of the source material that just stopped me in my tracks. It is the perfect encapsulation of everything we've talked about. The text says, sometimes healing begins not with dramatic change, but with learning how to breathe slowly enough to finally arrive where your body already is.
To finally arrive where your body already is, it really implies we've been absent from our own lives.
We are ghosts haunting our own schedules, and this practice is how you step back into the physical world. But I want to leave you with a final lingering thought that builds on that exact idea of arriving. We've talked all about how this mindful walking helps you cope with your internal rushing. But think about the external implications. If this practice forces you to drop the mental distractions and fully arrive in the present location of your body, what does that reveal about the spaces you spend your time in? Think about it. If you use this breathing rhythm to finally slow down enough to truly arrive at your office or arrive in your living room at home, and you suddenly realize your body feels fundamentally tense and unsafe in that environment without the shield of distraction, maybe this breathing practice isn't just a tool for calming down. Maybe it's a diagnostic tool that will force you to ask a much harder question. Do I actually want to be where my body already is?